From restoring the Amazon rainforest and removing tons of plastic from the ocean to major medical breakthroughs that are saving millions of lives around the world. 2023
This is the largest airplane ever to fly on hydrogen fuel cells.
was full
We have shown that we are capable to repeatedly harvest large amounts of plastic.
of positive news.
This facility is the closest thing we have to a time machine because it can turn back the clock on climate change.
I'm your host Regis, and here are the best good news stories of 2023. Let's start this off with some great medical news for all of us. The human life expectancy has doubled compared to 200 years ago. A lot has changed over the past 2 centuries, and we now live in a completely different world compared to many of our ancestors. Most of us enjoyed proper sanitation, sewage management, and access to clean drinking water, things that we all take for granted. But back in the 1800s, the average lifespan for an ordinary person was 35 years at best, with most people dying from common infectious diseases such as tuberculosis or pneumonia. Today, thanks to the advancement of science, technology, and medicine, life expectancy has actually doubled, according to the United Nations' latest figures. Quality of life may differ across different parts of the world, but it's an undeniable fact that living conditions across the globe have increased dramatically compared to what it used to be 200 years ago. Next up is great news for our oceans, where the ocean cleanup team has removed over 8,000 tons of plastic. Sadly, our oceans are full of plastic waste, as tons of waste enter the ocean through rivers every year. Over time, this trash accumulates in certain areas of the ocean. There are 5 of these garbage patches worldwide, but the largest of them is in the Pacific Ocean, and it's about twice the size of Texas. There are estimates that this patch alone contains over 1.8 trillion with a T pieces of plastic, which is about 250 pieces for every human being alive. But there's hope, as the ocean cleanup team has developed a huge garbage removal system with a length of 2,400 meters. It alone can clean the area of a soccer field every 5 seconds. In 2023, they were able to remove over 8 million kilograms of plastic from rivers and the oceans. Over the next few years, they plan to build a whole fleet of these devices that'll ultimately help them to remove 90% of floating plastic waste by 2040. A huge thank you to the ocean cleanup team. You're doing a great job, and we really appreciate the work that you're doing. Now we head to the United Arab Emirates, where the world's largest solar facility opened this past year. A mere 30 kilometers from Abu Dhabi, this massive 2-gigawatt solar farm is equipped with nearly 4 million individual solar panels, covering a total area of around 20 square kilometers. To put this into perspective, the new facility alone has the capacity to power more than 160,000 homes and eliminate over 2.4 million tons of carbon emissions annually. This is great news for all of us, as it shows that even nations that rely on oil revenues for a large portion of their economy are slowly shifting towards renewables. Next up is a happy story from Scotland, where farmers saved the world's loneliest sheep. Back in 2021, a single sheep was spotted at the foot of a cliff in Scotland by a group of kayakers. The sheep called out to the kayakers and seemed to be desperate to be saved. However, the tricky location made it difficult to access by vehicle or foot. In the meantime, the sheep was earning a reputation as the world's loneliest sheep. It was given the name Fiona and became so famous that a petition gained more than 50,000 signatures to rescue her. The authorities refused to intervene because of how difficult it was to access the area. That's when a group of 5 farmers banded together to slowly but surely evacuate her from the cliff. The rescue operation took an entire day, involving heavy machinery to pull up the sheep that now weighed 92 kilos, about 9 kilos of which was its own wool. After the rescue, Fiona was transported to a farm where she was assessed, treated, and will have the chance to socialize with other animals after 2 long years in isolation. That sheep has a lot of catching up to do. On a more serious note, the next story could help to save a lot of lives, as AI can now detect diabetes with just 10 seconds of a voice sample. I know this sounds ridiculous at first, but hear me out. It actually seems to work. Artificial intelligence has recently been employed as a way of detecting type 2 diabetes. In 2021, an estimated 500 million adults had diabetes globally. That's around 1 out of every 10 adults in the world. Even worse, nearly half that number is unaware that they're actually affected. Most of the time, that's due to the fact that so far the only detection method has been through a blood sample analysis. Now, groundbreaking research from 2023 could be changing all of that. Participants of a study used a mobile application to record the same short questions several times a day for 2 weeks. The phrases were simply, "Hello? How are you? What is my glucose level right now?" A machine learning model then processed 14 separated voice features, often not noticeable to the human ear. These included jittering, hoarseness, and roughness of breath, which are all classic symptoms of what's called dysphonia, which is a broad term used for any disorders of the voice. Dysphonia is more likely to appear in people with type 2 diabetes. Using these 14 different voice characteristics, the program was able to successfully detect this with an average success rate of 86.5%. That means from a voice sample of only 10 seconds, the AI model was reliably able to determine whether or not a person had diabetes. For our next story, we stay in the medical field, as a new malaria vaccine approved in 2023 could save millions of lives. Malaria is a deadly disease, especially for babies and young children. In 2021, 247 million cases were recorded, and more than 619,000 were fatal, most of them being in children under 5. For decades, scientists have been developing a vaccine which was finally approved in 2021. But its production was complicated, and so far only 18 million doses were created. And here comes the good news. In 2023, a revolutionary second malaria vaccine was approved, which could save millions of lives. The new vaccine can be produced on a large scale, with each dose costing between $2 and $4, about half the price of the first vaccine. They use similar technologies and target the same stage of the malaria parasite's life cycle, but the new one is easier to manufacture, as it requires a smaller dose. As such, the world's biggest vaccine maker is planning to manufacture up to 200 million doses a year. This is way more than the 18 million doses from the first vaccine that have been created in 3 years. Next, we head to the Amazon rainforest, which also saw a huge positive change in 2023. As the single largest rainforest in the world, the sheer importance of the Amazon just can't be underestimated. After decades of deforestation under former President Jair Bolsonaro, the Amazon was in danger of not being able to generate enough rain to sustain itself, potentially leading to the disruption of climate patterns in the area and the destruction of entire ecosystems. But thanks to the combined efforts of various South American nations and especially the newly elected Brazilian government led by President Lula da Silva, this trend of deforestation slowed down in 2023. According to Brazil, deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon is down by as much as 60% compared to the previous year. This marks the highest decrease in the area's deforestation in almost 2 decades. That's one heck of a milestone, and we're trying to reach a milestone of our own, 1,000 subscribers. So if you like positive news from all over the world, you can support us by subscribing to not miss our weekly dose of good news in the future. Moving on with the good news, the USA opened its first carbon removal plant in 2023. The facility is designed to absorb carbon directly from the air using limestone. Like many other rocks, limestone acts as one of the Earth's great carbon absorbers. The process works by heating up limestone to separate the carbon dioxide from a chemical called calcium oxide. This is then stored in powdered form in hundreds of trays placed high in the air, where it absorbs carbon dioxide once more. When extreme heat is applied, it separates the carbon dioxide from the calcium oxide again, a process that can be repeated again and again and again. The carbon dioxide can then be stored in concrete and used to create a more sustainable building material. This single facility in California is projected to absorb as much as 1,000 metric tons of CO2 every year, equal to removing 200 cars from the road. So these plants still have a long way to go, but it's an important step for a greener future. Next up, we head to Australia, where in 2023, over 29 species were removed from the endangered list. Although much of the world's biodiversity is currently in decline, a study in Australia has revealed some positive results. A total of 29 Australian species have recovered enough to no longer be classified as endangered. a result that's mainly driven by the decades of environmental policymaking in the country. Of the 29 recovered species, more than half were mammal species. Most notable of these recoveries was the humpback whale. The species has seen a significant increase to its population ever since their commercial harvesting was outlawed more than 40 years ago. Some other notable recoveries include the waterfall frog and the common mist frog, which both experienced significant decreases in the past as a result of invasive fungus. On a similar note, in 2023, scientists also developed an AI to detect biodiversity. In simple terms, biodiversity means a wide variety of species in an ecosystem, from tiny microorganisms and plants to insects and large animals, like us. A wide variety of species is important and reflects the health of an ecosystem, but deforestation and industrialization are making species disappear quicker than ever before, sending overall biodiversity into steep decline. That's why detecting and measuring biodiversity is critical. Scientists in Ecuador had the idea to use artificial intelligence to help do this. The program can instantly categorize animals by their sounds and find evidence of improved biodiversity. In a test run in 2023, thousands of sounds were recorded and run through an AI model. It identified 183 birds, 41 amphibians, and 3 mammalian species. This removes a huge part of the legwork required to review and identify wildlife. And staying with AI, in 2023, a new AI has also been developed for earthquake forecasting. During a 7-month trial carried out in China, researchers from the University of Austin were able to predict 70% of earthquakes a full week before they happened. Earthquake forecasting is a discipline that scientists have long wanted to master. With it, governments around the world can minimize human and economic losses by providing advance warnings to the population. The new AI model has successfully predicted 14 earthquakes a week before they actually happened, in a 350-kilometer radius of their actual location. Additionally, it also accurately calculated their strengths. So how does it work? The AI first learns from historical data, based on recordings of previous earthquakes, and then combines that with input by experts in that field. Based on these learnings, it then creates forecasts. What's more impressive, though, is the end goal: to have a plug-and-play AI predictor model that can be deployed anywhere around the world as needed. Something like ChatGPT, but for earthquakes. Now we head back to the medical field, where researchers have made some huge discoveries for cancer treatments in 2023. The first breakthrough comes from the University of East Anglia, where scientists have developed a new drug against bone cancer. This disease is known to occur more commonly among children and teenagers. The current treatment is largely done through chemotherapy and, in some worst cases, even limb amputation. As it currently stands, the survival rate for people who undergo these treatments is only at 42%. This is largely because of how rapidly the cancer can spread to vital organs, such as the lungs. The new drug, on the other hand, works by blocking the very gene that's responsible for this rapid spread. This breakthrough drug is unlike any of the other treatments for the disease, and it alone increases the survival rates of patients from 42 to 63% without the need for surgery or chemotherapy. So far, the drug has only been tested on mice, but the results are very promising. If all goes to plan, we could see this breakthrough cure undergo clinical trials in the near future. Meanwhile, researchers in California are developing a type of immunotherapy that boosts the body's natural defenses to fight off cancer cells at an amazing, unprecedented rate. Scientists have been aware of this technique for a long time, but the therapy kept causing side effects, which meant it couldn't be used on humans. But in 2023, a new version of the therapy was tested, and those side effects almost disappeared entirely. The technique was used to completely cure pancreatic cancer in laboratory mice, which is an incredible medical breakthrough. A lot more testing will need to be done before the treatment can be used on humans, but it's a huge step in the right direction. And then there was also a huge breakthrough for treating patients with Parkinson's disease. In 2023, scientists have developed a new type of implant to address widespread walking disorders caused by Parkinson's disease. The device has already successfully treated a patient, enabling him to walk confidently, offering hope to patients around the world. Walking disorders affect about 90% of individuals in advanced Parkinson's stages, and the disease can often prove resistant to the current treatments available. The disease can cause muscle stiffness, tremors, and slow and ineffective movement, including problems with balance, jumps, climbing stairs, and just walking in general. But where old methods fail, the new prosthetic triumphs by electronically stimulating the backbone area responsible for leg muscle activation during walking. 2 years ago, it was implanted in a patient whose condition got progressively worse over the course of 30 years, to the point where he could barely make a few steps without falling over. With the implant, he was able to walk uninterrupted for 6 kilometers in one go, while also climbing stairs confidently. Looks like the trial's going well so far, wouldn't you say? Now we head to Yemen, where in 2023 a huge oil disaster was prevented just in time. On the coast of Yemen, an abandoned oil tanker carrying over 1 million barrels of oil had been slowly falling apart for years and posed a major threat to local residents and the region's fragile ecosystems. Due to major conflicts in Yemen, no one was able to safely reach the ship and remove the remaining oil. So over the years, the tanker became more and more of a dangerous threat, and concerns grew about a possible catastrophic oil spill in the Red Sea. But in 2023, the Yemeni authorities received support from the United Nations, along with other humanitarian organizations, to finally remove the oil in this tanker.
This group has been able to do something about it. I believe we'll be successful. We'll continue to push forward until we succeed.
The ship is now stable, and discussions about its removal from the waters or its continued maintenance are underway. An oil spill of such a large size would have been the 5th largest from a tanker in human history. It would have had devastating results for the environment and for the people of Yemen. The communities along Yemen's coastline would have suffered massive losses, sending them into yet another crisis. Thank goodness for the good news that this spill was avoided. We stay in this region with our next story, as in 2023, blue whales have returned to the Seychelles. This story brings more proof that the devastating impact of reckless human activity can actually be reversed. In a surprising turn of events, the blue whale has returned to the Indian Ocean near the Seychelles, decades after being wiped out by whaling. Footage of the whales was first captured in 2020 and 2021, but now new underwater recordings reveal that the whales spent months in the Seychelles, raising the possibility of a permanent breeding ground. In the second half of the 20th century, the Soviet Union pursued whaling aggressively, killing nearly 500,000 blue whales by the 1960s. But surprisingly, even for most researchers, conservation efforts and bans on whaling have allowed blue whale populations to recover globally. Following numerous reported sightings of blue whales in the vicinity of the Seychelles, the species' return to the island nation was officially confirmed in 2023. Next up, we're getting closer to a revolutionary way of flying, as 2023 saw multiple breakthroughs in the aviation industry. Aviation makes up around 2% of all carbon dioxide emissions every year, and it's not hard to see why. A return trip from London to New York creates almost 2.2 metric tons of CO2 per passenger. That's equal to driving a car almost 22,000 kilometers. For reference, if you drove from Kazakhstan all the way to Sweden and then down to the bottom of Africa, you'd still have some gas left in the tank. But 2023 saw a couple of huge breakthroughs for the aviation industry. First, a company named Zero Avia ran a successful flight of a 19-seater airplane, powered only by green hydrogen. And just a month later, another aerospace firm, Universal Hydrogen, test flew a plane with twice the seat capacity.
It's a flight test platform for the first ever commercial plane to run on sunshine and emit nothing but water.
And then in late 2023, Virgin Atlantic reached a major milestone with the successful journey of a Boeing 787 flying from London to New York using sustainable jet fuel. It's the first ever sustainable transatlantic airplane flight in history, reducing the carbon emissions by literal tons. This kind of fuel is made up of textiles, food waste, fats, and used cooking oils, all things that were headed for the landfill anyway. I'll be honest, the idea of flying on pizza crusts and banana peels is a little strange to me, but hey, if it's saving the planet, I am all for it. On a similar note, 2023 studies have revealed that our ozone layer is set to fully recover. The ozone layer is a part of the Earth's atmosphere that absorbs harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. It's basically like sunscreen and sunglasses for the Earth. During the mid-1970s, it was discovered that the ozone layer was continuously being depleted by chemicals released by large-scale industries. One of these groups of harmful chemicals are known as CFCs, which were commonly used as refrigerants and solvents. The ozone layer's depletion posed a great risk, not just to humans, but to the global ecology as a whole. So in 1989, an international treaty was drafted in order to protect the ozone layer and phase out the use of CFCs over the next few decades, and it was put into effect. Today, thanks to the collective effort and the decisive action of the international community, the ozone layer is set to fully recover given current trends. And for our last story today, we have more good news from the medical field, as a new gene therapy was able to cure the hearing of deaf children. In 2023, researchers tested an experimental gene therapy for kids where replacement DNA was inserted into the ear through a virus. The cells then contained a virus with a new genetic code that can detect vibrations, just like inner ear hairs. So incredibly, these cells can also pass on the sound to the brain. Basically, they successfully restored these children's hearing by repairing their DNA. Development is in the early stages, but there have already been dramatic results. These children have never been able to hear anything before. After the therapy, they were able to hear speech almost normally. A video of the results shows a 6-year-old conversing with her mother, even with her cochlear implant removed. Wow.
听到声音了吗？听到了。我的声音大不大？
And that wraps up our best good news stories of 2023. Which of them are you the most excited about? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video this coming Saturday.